And we're live.
Just as easy as that, eh?
Didn't think we'd ever get here. Right,
Yeah.
okay. Let's be professional, Jonathan.
Let's try. Let's try.
Welcome, UK Crime Book Club members, and we have the delightful Jonathan Whitelaw here with us tonight. I'm just going to giggle for a full hour.
That's okay. That's all right. That's easy audience, right?
Right, okay. I don't know if you've got copies down in your.
I don't have copies. That's the thing. Because I'm over here in Canada. I don't have copies, unfortunately. Yeah.
Jinx story. This is not good. Okay, The Concert Hall Killer. Congratulations, came out this week.
Thank you.
Gorgeous cover. And look, all shiny.
Wonderful. It's bright as well.
Sorry. Apologies to KCBC members. We've got a little stiller beforehand, and that's it. Now I'm not going to stop giggling. So, tell us a little bit about, with no spoilers, Concert Hall Killer.
I'm always really, really nervous when you say that. I'm always nervous when anyone says that. You know, don't add in any spoilers, because I wasn't planning on adding in any spoilers, but now that you've said it, I'm completely second guessing every word that comes out that next. Thank you for that lovely introduction. Thank you for the lovely plug. I'm delighted to be here. Lovely to see everyone as always. The Concert Hall Killer. It's the third in the Bingo Hall Detective series, and our intrepid Cumbrian amateur detectives, Jason and his mother-in-law Amita, are back once again, and they are hot on the heels of their very first serial killer. And the town is aghast as a big primetime cop show has rolled wagons north and is filming in Penrith, and it turns out that the director winds up murdered, and of course it falls to our dynamic duo to try and catch the killer. So yes, it's been a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. You guys know me, right? I absolutely love writing this series, and I love writing these characters. But I kind of felt that this one in particular was just a joy from start to finish, and just felt like I was having really, really good fun. Which sounds awful when you add in the fact
how dare you enjoy your job?
Exactly, precisely. How dare I enjoy work, right? But yeah, it's like, it sounds awful when you say that it's my first serial killer. So it's you can't pinch of salt stuff. Yeah, pinch of salt. But no, good fun, great fun.
Excuse me, that's really made me laugh. I messaged you and said I've done nothing but laugh. It's just hilarious. I'm not even through it yet, which is driving me insane. And if you can come back in about 3 hours, I'll have finished. But I've done nothing but chuckle, and my husband's like side-eyeing me like, what's she laughing at now? But it's the funniest thing. I actually wrote something down. I'm looking at all my post-it notes now. I wrote down, Jason's got a real way with words. He's able to make gruesome things sound cheerful. And then I wrote down a quote. Okay. Right then, he said, it's a date with my mother-in-law in the middle of winter to go see where a man was robbed of his life. Wonderful stuff. And I can almost hear you saying it and like rubbing your hands. Wonderful stuff. Kind of, there's so much of Jason that I think he's got to be a little bit based on you.
Oh, well, I've always said this. I mean, we're 3 books into the series now, and I think I've been saying this since before the series started, that I think Jason's probably a better, well, in fact, I know that Jason's a better journalist than I ever was, and that wouldn't be, it was a fairly low bar to start off with, so it wouldn't have been difficult, but it's one of those things. Do you know, the strange thing is, Sam, like, I think particularly with cozy crime, and I think I've certainly found it more so than anything else that I've written in my career, is that with these characters in particular, I really do feel like I know them so well. And I remember sitting here chatting to you when the first one came out, and I remember you asked me about, where did the characters come from? Where do you imagine a 70-year-old retiree? And I remember saying that, I've thought this for now, 3 and a bit years, that they came fully formed out of the mists of my imagination, and that's a very hoity-toity and artsy way of saying that. I didn't actually have to put that much effort into creating them, which is dreadful. But I really, really do find that when I sit down and write for them, it really does feel like I'm getting back together with old friends, and it. I mean, you know this. You know this as a writer, and obviously there's been endless writers here in the UK CBC, and it's one of those things that it's certainly something that I've always worried about as a writer, particularly if you write something, if you're writing a series and you go away to write something else, which I did last year. There can be huge swathes of time, even if you've got a release coming out every year, there can be huge swathes of time between finishing one project and starting the next if it's in a series, and I always worry about that. I really, really do. I always worry that I lose the voice and I lose their voices, and I remember when I first started writing The Village Hall Vendetta, which is the second one, a piece of advice that I'd been given was to rewrite a chapter from the previous work, which is what I did. So I printed out a chapter from the Bingo Hall Detectives and I rewrote it, as in like I just typed it out word for word, and it worked really, really well. And when I wrote The Concert Hall Killer, I didn't need to do that, weirdly, and I kind of trust myself. And as a little insight, a little nugget, I'm about 80, probably about 85,000 words into the fourth one at the moment. So that hopefully first draft should be finished this week. And I felt that again, I started it, I think, just before Christmas and or maybe just after Christmas. And I think it's a testimony to how much the characters have grown on me as the writer, and hopefully that comes across hopefully comes across to the readers as well. Hopefully.
I think for me so far, I know I've not finished it yet. For me, this is the best one so far.
Oh, and you say that. You say that every year. You say that every year, Sam. You're just trying to inflate my ego. That's.
I don't think you need my support with that. I think we're good. But no, I genuinely, I just have not stopped laughing. They're so good.
I'm glad.
And especially the bond with Jason and Amita.
Yeah.
It's such a wonderful thing.
Well, it's one of those things that I think with cozy crime, with cozy crime, you when you're writing cozy crime, you don't necessarily have to get bogged down in things like forensic crime scene investigation and ballistics reports and toxicology reports and things like that you get with, say, police procedurals and psychological thrillers and stuff like that. But what you've got to do, readers still expect a 90,000 word book, right? So you have to stress things like humor and relationships and stuff. Not that you can't, obviously, not that that's not done in other forms of crime, obviously, but I think one of the one of the hardest things that I always find, and I have to actually, as the series has gone on, I have to have it in my head before I start, is what's Jason and Amita's motivation here, right? Because at the end of the day, he's an out of work journalist, she's an old age pensioner. Why are they still fighting crime, right? What's the motivation to it? And it's something that I'm always at pains to make sure it still works. And that's the thing about cozy crime, this, right? And the audience knows this. And the great thing about cozy crime is that inherently it's rooted in real life. It's rooted in the kind of humdrum of real life. It's anybody could be the detective, everyone can be the detective, but also it's incredibly outlandish because anybody could be the detective, right? And it's you have to balance that. And I think that's the bit that I always have to get my head around as the writer before I start doing horrible things to lovely people. But I'm very glad that I'm glad that you're enjoying it. It's always the nervy part, right? Publication week, you think, oh my goodness, are people actually going to enjoy this?
I think the thing is that with I've completely lost my train of thought. I was so engrossed in listening to what you were saying.
It's my fault.
Completely, I lost my train of thought.
That's
I think the thing that really works is that their desire to solve the crime is realistic, and that's what comes through. So you maybe don't need anything else other than that. You've made it believable because, like with this one, Amita. Can we talk about Amita and the things she buys for the house?
We can. Yeah, I don't think there's any spoilers in that. I don't think so.
I think it's just genius.
Yeah.
She really just has the bit between her teeth, and she loves spending time with Jason. But I want you to talk about the scene that I have just referred to.
Yeah. So Yeah, so
It's the kind of thing that I'd do.
well,
And my husband would just be like, right, okay, just put it over there. It's fine.
yeah.
Not even
So
looking. Can't even see it.
with with yeah, so without kind of too many spoilers, I don't think it's a spoiler.
I don't think it's
don't,
a
I don't
spoiler.
think
I never
it,
would have
no,
said it if I thought it was. I
it's
just
not.
think it's
It's not the
letting
old
you
axe
know
in the
what you're
wall.
letting yourself in for.
Yeah. So in short, Amata is able to procure an old chalkboard, an old blackboard, but the ones that you used to get, again, showing my vintage here, the ones that you used to get in school that would be you'd pull them down and they were kind of red rubbery and they used to make a terrible racket, and they're on sort of big wooden brackets and things, and you can move them about and stuff like that. So it's none of this, none of this like touch
So it's not like
screen.
this little,
No, and
cheap plastic thing
no,
that's this
far
big,
from it. It's one of these huge,
the
humongous
size
things
of a wall.
that take up the room, right? So of course Jason is absolutely baffled that that's now living in their living room, and that of course is the crime wall, right? That's where they that's where she puts together the investigation and stuff. And do you know the interesting thing is, it's like there's a new character who's introduced in the Concert Hall Killer, and his name's Malcolm Brunger. Now this is a character that I've worked on and I've had in my head for about a decade, maybe even longer. And I was just never, ever able to find a place for him. I was never able to find a project for him. I didn't know if he was going to be a central character in something, or or he could be dropped into something else. And it was the most amazing thing. And I was a bit nervous, actually. I don't mind admitting this. I was a bit nervous that when I did include him in this one, that my editor was going to go, oh, Jonathan, this feels a little bit kind of shoehorned in. He doesn't quite fit in with it. But thankfully Jen loved it, which is fantastic. So it's that's a little personal accolade that I've got with the Concert Hall Killer, is that Malcolm Brunger has finally been given life. I mean, that's the thing. Like I tried everything, Sam, honestly, with this character. I tried everything with him. I did a sci-fi. I tried to do him in a sci-fi sort of mode. I did him in like his own series, did a historical, tried it, and it just, for some reason, it just never ever worked. And I don't know why. I don't know if it was just him. I don't know if it was if my heart wasn't really in it to kind of make him the central character or what. So to have him in this one, and without too many spoilers, he's in the next one as well. It's a real treat. And again, hopefully people can get a kick out of him. He's not a legitimate businessman, put it that way, but he
That is a good way of putting it.
He'll be able to get you a one of these old school chalkboards that that take up a living room.
If you need something, he knows a man that can help.
Absolutely.
Very, very short version.
Exactly. So
him.
Jason doesn't trust them, but Jason doesn't
No,
trust
he does not. Oh my word! And Amata's not having it. She's quite happy with this friendship that she's got, and this man who can do things for her.
Absolutely
That's wrong, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Absolutely.
No, I think it's a genius place to put Malcolm.
Thank you very much. Yep, I was pretty chuffed. And you know what the strange thing was? Like I hadn't. It wasn't intended. It wasn't like I hadn't set out to. Over. I think I've told you guys before, but like I tend to work from like a 2-page roadmap of the story, start to finish. It's got lots and lots of spaces, obviously gaps that the anarchic chaos of a pantsing only that allows. But it wasn't like I didn't set out to do it, and I'd kind of gotten the idea of these of the chalkboard. For some strange reason, like there was a story I remember being in school. I must have been maybe 12 or 13, so secondary school, and I remember we'd like a couple of troublemakers in our year, and one of them threw a desk at another lad, and it ripped a hole in one of these chalkboards.
Thank God you said the chalkboard.
What's that? Sorry.
Thank God you said the chalkboard.
Big time. Yeah, it was a proper. It was incredibly dynamic and terrifying at the same time. But it ripped a big hole in it, and it was like it's one of those things, right? You think like, do you get that repaired? Does it have to be removed? And it was ended up just put like a big patch over it. And of course, you couldn't. The teachers couldn't. They just had to write algebra around it, right?
Yeah.
So, and that story kind of popped into my head just randomly, and I thought, what would be really, really funny and to irritate Jason and the family would be if Amata was able to get one of these things. And then, of course, it all just sort of snowballed from there. Where would she get one of these things? Well, it's the type of thing that you've got to get from someone who knows someone who knows someone. And then I thought, well, do I know anybody like that? Yeah, of course, this character who's been kicking about in my imagination for the last 10 years. And that was it. So I think that probably helped. I think it probably helped that it was that, organic process to get him in there. It didn't feel shoehorned. I hadn't shoehorned him in. So it was, I'm delighted.
It's really funny that you've been hanging on to that story for so long.
I know. I don't know where it came from. I honestly don't know where. That was totally traumatized, right? Totally, because the leg of the desk went right through it, made this horrible noise. So there you go. That's it. The life on the front line in the schools in Glasgow.
Patsy and Laura have said hi. Patsy said, put a hold on TTSS to be here. Hi, Jonathan.
Oh, fantastic.
TTSS? Any clue?
I'm sure.
Patsy, help me out. TTS? I'm normally good at things like that, but no.
It's not the Antiques Roadshow. No, that's easy, isn't it?
No.
Spot the writer.
Sorry, Patsy, no idea. Patsy's going to be my... I'm Patsy's +1 at the Leeds event we've got going on this year.
Lovely.
So we had an evening in a hotel together last year, which has caused a lot of jokes within the admin chat about me having 2 different ladies on 2 different evenings. Still got it.
It's not 9 o'clock yet. It's not the watershed yet.
And Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Oh, sorry, yes, of course.
But we are very, very much looking forward to it because we went looking for a loo and we just happened to find a bar. What can we say? Absolutely, what can we say? So
Fantastic.
we've had some fun being Patsy. When I was looking into, because obviously we talk a lot and I've interviewed you a lot.
Yeah.
So I was like, right, what haven't I asked you? What can I find that's like a little nugget of something? And I don't ever remember asking you about writing about radioactive waste.
Oh yes. That
I don't know if I've just missed this or if it's just never come up before, but I couldn't miss the opportunity to ask you.
Yeah, it's that infamous line in my biography, my author biog that
which is why I can't believe I've missed it.
It was a long time ago. I'm young and needed money. What can I say? But it was back when I was freelancing. Before I had a regular gig as a news reporter in any sort of newsroom. And what happened was, and I didn't know this, right? But I like, you know how it works, is, freelancers and stuff like that. You end up on all kinds of databases and things where, PRs can contact you saying, do you want to cover this? Because if you're a freelancer, people in newsrooms, you're not just tied to the one newspaper or media outlet. So quite randomly, I think it was like a Wednesday morning or something like that, I got this call from a PR, and the PR was representing, now I can't remember the name of the organization, but essentially the organization was the kind of governing body, almost like a union for radioactive waste and nuclear scientists, right? And what happened was they have like a major conference every 4 years. So it was dubbed like the Olympics of radioactive waste. And that year they were having it, that week, in fact, they were having it in Glasgow. And obviously I was staying there at the time, and I was asked, would you like to come down and, we'll give you access to all areas and you can speak to the scientists and go to all the talks and stuff like that. I was like, yeah, absolutely. They were essentially like, well, whatever story you can get from it, just fill your boots. So that was fine. So I kind of trotted down to the to the exhibition centre, the exhibition campus down on the River Clyde, and I was the only journalist there. Nobody from the BBC or STV or any of the newspapers or stuff like that had decided to cover it. And I mean, it was absolutely fascinating stuff. And some of the cleverest people in the world were all gathered at this conference, and nobody was talking about it. And like, a lot of it was dealing with things like, how do you address the radioactive boogeyman and the dangers of it and Chernobyl and the stuff. So it was pretty full on in terms of kind of science and stuff like that. But yeah, so I got like a couple of stories out of it, and got them sold to papers and local papers and stuff. And it was see for 2 days, see for a conference about radioactivity essentially. it was absolutely fascinating. Got to speak to these really, really kind of high up scientists from all over the world, and yeah, really, really special, really, 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 really fascinating, really, really interesting, and to do it at such an early stage of my career was a it was an eye opener. It was an eye opener, yeah. So yeah, that's how that stays in the biog.
I just thought it was brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
Patsy has said, yes, Patsy, we are sharing again this year, just to confirm.
Excellent.
She's just double checking our arrangements. And she's also said the first time she met you was 2019 before lockdown. She's put bloody Scotsman. I'm guessing she means bloody Scotland.
Bloody Scotsman might be something completely different. Should we have the police on standby?
And yes, TG, everyone, he has nice knees. Better explain the football match.
Oh, blimey, yeah.
Apparently, your knees are a topic of discussion.
Well,
they don't wish to put you on the spot.
It's news to me. It's news to me. It's knobbly knees, I think, is the best way. I've always thought my knees look like something like the Beano, like the Bash Street Kids. I think that's probably what I reference to. But yeah, that's a reference to the Scotland England writers game at bloody Scotland, which I've had
which is just such a low key affair. I mean, none of you have anything to say about it.
Listen, I don't want to. I was handed the captain's armband for Scotland with minutes to go before kickoff at last year's, and we won. And it's probably one of the highlights of my career. So there you go. It's not that I talk about it, but yeah, it's good fun. It's always good fun. It's great fun, and it's moved venue now. It used to be on a bowling green, which is just up the road from like the sort of main venues in Stirling, in central Stirling, and now it's in the park, the King's Park, which is up the road. So we all get carted in a bus. It's very professional. It's incredibly professional. Like you get carted in a bus, and then the players get off, and you get clapped in. They had a gin tent at the side of the pitch. None of the players partook in it before or during the game. I'm happy
going to say that. Make a question using the word partake.
But yeah, weirdly, there was an incident at one point. I think there was a free kick or something like that given, and I can't remember if it was us or England who were shooting into the direction of the gin tent, and everybody was like, for goodness sake, keep it, make sure it's on target and make sure the goalie can get it, because we don't want that ball going into the gin tent. Otherwise, none of us are getting a drink afterwards. So it was thankfully we didn't destroy the gin, but it was
I know, we're used to a lineup of players in front of the goal, but not in front of the gin.
No. That was it was very, very good fun, and it's always taken in the best spirit. There we go. See, that's it. See this stuff. See, just got to keep up with me, right? But no, it's always good fun. It's always one of the highlights of the. I mean, it amazes me every year, like the crowd that it pulls in. Like, because the way that the game goes ahead, unless it's there's 3 inches of snow on the grass, the game will always go ahead, right? And but the souls that brave the wind and the rain, and sometimes the sunshine as well, to come out and watch the game, it's very admirable. And everybody's very good mates before and after the game, but when that whistle. But there's a ref, right? It's all legitimate. It's all like there's a ref and everything, so it's great fun. It's brilliant fun.
I would hate to be the referee for any match, let alone Scotland versus England.
Yeah. Well, the thing was, it's like I got to go on stage with the cup that night in front of the fun-loving crime writers, ahead of the fun-loving crime writers. So this is a great thing about bloody Scotland, is that everybody either goes from the pub to the game, and then certainly from the game back to the pub. And I was having a pint with Craig Robertson, who unfortunately couldn't play because I think he was injured or something like that, right? And he was saying, what would be really, really fun if we introduced the winning team before the gig, on the Saturday night. And I was like, all right, okay then, yeah. And then I was invited to a dinner, and I had to excuse myself from the dinner early. And this is the dreadful thing, Sam. And I'm feeling this actually telling now. I was having to excuse myself to go, I've just got to go on and ahead of the fun-loving crime writers, just to hoist the cup in front of the audience and stuff like that. And it was just, absolutely unbearable stuff. But we all go, and there was a couple of us there, and we're backstage. It's just like saying it out loud and remembering it. It's like backstage and using all this sort of patter. It was incredible, absolutely incredible. We got introduced, and I was introduced to the captain. I get given the cup, and I hoist it up, and the room goes. However 800 strong people are in the room. They go like that. It was absolutely fantastic stuff. So that's the great thing about Bloody Scotland as a festival, is that it's so relaxed and it's so convivial, and the atmosphere is always great at all the venues for every one of the events, and it's very much a highlight, and they look after you, right? The festival always look after guests and writers alike. It's always wonderful fun. So if you've never been, this is my plug for it. If you've never been, it's this September. Oh, you've got to go, Sam. I know. You love it.
Yeah, things keep getting in the way, unfortunately.
I know.
We know how it is.
What a pain. I know.
It's not going to happen this year either, but next year. It was going to happen this year. It was definitely happening last year.
These things
I'll
happen,
go when I can go.
That's it. Well, you'll always be welcome. You'll always be made welcome, as is everybody. Yeah, it's always good fun.
I'm going to skip all of the comments discussing your knees, because this is borderline harassment.
I'm terrified now.
I need to behave.
I don't think
it's all
I want
very
to have a look
complimentary, but we're still not going there. So I believe it's Sarah who asked, "Are you going to any festivals this year?" Sorry, I'm trying to keep up with the. We've got a lot of Facebook user, so I'm trying to keep an eye on Facebook to see who's asking the questions. But then that was like 10 minutes ago. So with my memory.
That's quite all right. Your memory, I promise you, is 100 times better than mine. Believe it or not, it is. It wouldn't be hard, but yeah. So festivals, events, and stuff. So the next thing I've got coming up is I'm doing the wonderful people at Waterston's Carlisle are hosting me on May 16th, I think it is, for a Q&A, and I'm doing a sort of mini bookshop tour. So I'm back over next month, and I'll be doing a bookshop tour up and down the country. But I'm very, very excited about that one, because obviously it's Cumbria. Yeah. I've never done an event at Waterston's Carlisle, and the staff have been very, very complimentary, very, very accommodating as well. So I'm very excited to be doing an event in my spiritual home of Cumbria and Carlisle, and I'll be down in Kendal and Barrow and Furness and stuff like that, and Manchester and Liverpool, all the usual places. So yeah, very, very excited about that. Really looking forward to it. And the strange thing is, it's like I won that award last year, the Lakeland Book of the Year Prize for Fiction. And I said in my I wasn't expecting to win it, but I said in my speech that, like, I kind of felt that I'd properly been adopted as a sort of pseudo Cumbrian with these books, and not that I ever felt that I needed any sort of vindication or anything like that, and I was never ever made to feel otherwise. But I said that, and I said that to Ali, who's the manager at Waterston's Carlisle, that these types of events, to get the opportunity to do them in the I was going to say province there. I've been over here in Canada too long. In the region that the books are set, it's really quite special. It's really, really nice, and Cumbria is such a wonderful place and wonderful people, I mean, the books, as you know, we've talked about it before. The books are very much my ode to Cumbria and the Lake District and Penrith and everywhere else in it, and to have that opportunity to thank people, and that's what it is. Thank the readers that are in the area, in the region, on the doorstep of where it's set is really very, very special. So very excited about that. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to being back in Blighty and seeing everybody and seeing a lot of people and kind of celebrating it, because that's the thing. Like, I'm still here in Canada, or I was in Canada obviously this week for it coming out. So it was very special to wake up, because that was the thing. Like, we're 7 hours behind at the moment in Alberta, so I woke up, like, couldn't sleep. Obviously, I haven't slept for a week, and worrying about the book coming out. So to kind of wake up in the early hours and see so many messages waiting for me, emails, and Twitter and Facebook, Instagram, and stuff like that, it's really lovely. It never goes away. It really, really doesn't. It's a very, very special. It's a very, very special treat to be a writer, to have these sorts of things, and to know that people care, and yourself included, and everyone at the UK CBC and beyond. It's been a lovely couple of days, really, really lovely couple of days, and I'm delighted. I'm really, really glad, really happy, feeling very blessed, as they say.
Well, we're delighted for you.
I'll stop.
That's so nice. I know we've talked before about kind of other genres and things that you might do. And one of the things that struck me when I started the Concert Hall Killer was the initial couple of pages read like a thriller, like a darker. Have you heard this before? Have other people said this to you?
They've not said it. They've not said it, but it was intended to be that way. Yeah, it was something.
It's very, very, very clever.
Well, that's very kind of you. I've got a very good editor. That's the magic comes in the editing. Believe me, the magic comes in the editing. Yeah. Again, it was one of those things that like I like to take a risk. Right, I like to challenge myself as a writer. I like to keep things going, especially when you get 3 books into a series, and you don't ever want, as much as I've already talked about tonight, that you feel very, very comfortable with the characters and stuff like that. You don't ever want to get too comfortable, because I think that's when complacency starts. And I'm not the only writer that thinks this way. Far from it. We all do. And what I like to do is, with this series in particular, is that I like to, one of the great things about this sort of resurgence and renaissance in cozy crime has been that it's been dragged from, what was quite a fixed. It's got to be set in the 20s and 30s and 40s. It's been dragged kicking and screaming into the 21st century, and you've got wonderful cozy crime series and books that are out now that are incredibly contemporary. Alice Bell, I talk about how wonderful a writer she is, and she says it as well. She's got characters in her cozy books that swear like hairy arse stalkers, right? And she said in interviews and stuff like that, and she told me as well that that's the characters are people that she knows or what she would think, again, rooted in real life. And I think it's been such a wonderful byproduct of having this resurgence of cozy, is that the genre itself has been made so contemporary that you can have that. Right? You can have something like this. And I think the opening chapter of the Concert Hall Killer, I think, are part of it anyway. I think to write it in such a different style and it is in a different genre and a different kind of feel and different vibe to it. I knew I was taking a risk with it, and I knew that if my editor came back and said, "Jonathan, come on, behave yourself here," right? It would have been fine. It absolutely would have been fine. But she didn't. She far from it. She really, really enjoyed it, and I think doing that, I felt a lot better kicking the book off that way. And of course, there's context to it as well that I don't want to go into. There's reasons why it's written that way to start off with, but it was hard. It was. I mean, I was sweating bullets writing it, because that's the thing, as you know, Sam, right? Like that style of writing and that that police procedural and that thriller and that sort of tenseness. Like, there's so many great writers doing such wonderful work in that field. And I did feel a wee bit like I was kind of treading on toads, and I knew that I wasn't going to ever be able to sustain it beyond the couple of pages that it goes. So
really? Because it reads like you absolutely could.
Oh, you're very, very kind. You're very, very kind.
It was an excellent opener.
It's all in the editing. It's all in the editing. It's all the post-production, as they say. It's all smoke and mirrors. That's all it is.
Sarah's saying that she hopes to see you in the lakes.
Excellent. Yeah.
I read something that you wrote for writing.ie for anyone who wants to go and read it.
Yeah.
And I always find location fascinating.
Yeah.
And just based on the things that we were talking then about kind of pushing the boundaries of the genre, how much swearing can you get away with? What words can you get away with using? All of that. Yeah, location. Do you think there's kind of a boundary for where location goes?
Within sort of cozy in particular, or just in general? I think the classic cozy is that it's set in a country house and only a country house, or a ship sailing down the Nile, or it's like part of what it is that it's enclosed in a very claustrophobic setting. And people can't get it, can't escape, right? And that's that's the kind of bread and butter when it comes to cozy. I think what you find is with this sort of contemporization of it, I think you can. I don't necessarily think you could maybe, continent hop. He says, but I mean, every rule for writing is there to be broken, right? It's
Have you just said about 7 ideas in the back of your head for consonant hopping? As you said,
no, I'm not that clever. I'm not that clever. No. Far from it. But I think it's, I say this when I'm doing, I run workshops and teaching and things like that over here in Canada, and I always sort of add the caveat when I'm doing these workshops is that as much as I can sit here and tell you, do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that, if you can make it work, if you as the writer can make it work. Classic one, right? Classic one for cozy crime is that traditionally you don't have a police officer or someone with a police background as your lead detective, because the whole point of it is that it's amateurs and all the rest of it, right? But as I always say, like, if you can make it work, if you can have a cozy crime with a police officer at the heart of it, and of course MC Beaton's Hamish Macbeth series is exactly that, right? But is Hamish Macbeth your kind of typical police officer character compared to, like, your Rebus or whoever else? Well, no, not really, because he very much sides with the villagers as opposed to the police and stuff. So like, everything can work. You can make it work. You can make it work if you want to make it work. And I always say that in these classes to kind of aspiring writers and stuff, is that be deliberate with it, right? Don't accidentally write a cozy when you set out to write a police procedural, because they're very, very different beasts. And as long as you take ownership over it, you can make anything work, hopefully. But of course, as we both know, and everyone in the group knows, that writing is such a subjective business, and what I love, people hate, and vice versa, and that's the great thing about it, because it means that you get so many wonderful voices and varied voices and different styles and different approaches to the same thing. I always say this in these classes, like, I could give this whole group tonight the one brief, and I will get 1,000 different stories back with the exact same brief, because every story's been written, but you've not written every story. So it's, God, I feel like I'm speaking in platitudes tonight. Put me down.
No,
Put me
absolutely not. I mean, you've just made me think of the Gone anthology from Red Dog Press.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was literally the theme Gone. And he had, 25, 30 authors.
Completely different, totally different approaches.
Completely different things.
And some who write the same style of work, but completely different output and stuff. And that's it. And I think, again, I say that to when I speak to readers and I speak to people that want to be writers and stuff, I always say that to them. I went, don't ever be put off by the fact that every story's been told. You've not told every story. So you inherently, as a writer, trust yourself as a writer, trust your own voice as a writer, that you will be able to put your own original spin on it, because that's it. I wish I could write everybody's story for them. I really do, but I can't. They'd all be Jonathan Whitelaw stories, and thankfully not everybody's Jonathan Whitelaw.
I think it's one of the first things people should absolutely learn. When they go into writing, that finding your voice, I think, is not an easy thing, but it's a worthwhile thing.
No, far from it. And I'm very grateful that this particular series, that Jason and Amata in particular, that I do feel that I'm at that place where I'm confident enough to say that I have found my voice with them as characters within that genre and the types of books that they are. Again, as much as I'm being sort of glib and saying that it's all on the editing, like, I have a fabulous editor in Jen Pegg. I've said this, I think, forever. And she's wonderful. She's a wonderful supporter of my writing, and she knows the characters, she knows me, and she knows the setting and all that probably better than I do. So, when she comes up with a suggestion, or she says, can we tweak something or move something about, or what have you, it's I know that she absolutely knows exactly what she's talking about, and that makes a big difference. That helps with your confidence as a writer, if you know that somebody's got your back, or they know the story and they know inside out as well, and it does it makes a huge difference. But you can do it yourself as well. Of course you can. Like, nobody will ever be a bigger champion of your own writing than you. And that's the thing about editing, is that all that's doing is making it better. You're polishing the edges and you're making it better. And again, another thing that I say in my workshops is, don't ever see editing as a failure. Don't ever read something back and go, my God, that's awful, I can't write. The fact that you've written it, the fact that you've got the insight to go back and edit it and think that's the whole part. That's part of the gig, right? That's part of being what a writer is. So it's you can always learn something from the whole process, really.
Sarah's asking what your internet history would say about you.
Oh God.
I don't know that. I mean, I could be completely wrong. As a cozy author, your searches, can you really search the kind of things that a thriller writer would search?
This is the thing, right? Yeah. The weird thing is, like, and again, I kind of doing a lot of teaching and things like that over here in Canada. It makes you think more about it. It makes you think more about the process. And actually, what I've found is that with cozy, you still have to know what happens, right? You might never ever write, a graphic scene where someone has the light choked out, but that's what happened, right? You've still got to know what happens because you then have to write around it. You have to know what it is to write, to almost not write it, if you know what I mean. Like if a body's been, stuck behind the door for 5 days or what have you. That's not a spoiler, by the way. If a body's not been found for 5 days or 5 weeks or 5 months or what have you, you still got to know what the effects of that are. You might not go into the gory details of the worms crawling through their eyeballs and necrosis setting in and things like that.
You sure you don't want to write something darker?
So you've still got to know, right? You've still got to kind of know what it is, and again, I think that's a big. I think that's a surprise to a lot of people when they speak to me, certainly as a cozy writer. But when I speak to other cozy writers, it's the same. Like, our search histories are just as bad as thriller writers because we need to know what happens. We're also morbidly curious as well. I used to be a journalist. That's it kind of comes with the territory that you've got to find out these sorts of things. So it's just as grim, unfortunately. I wish it was nicer. I wish it was cozy. I wish it was all about hot cross buns and cardigans and all the rest. But it really isn't, unfortunately. I wish it was.
We've got no excuse, Sarah, for our internet histories. This is the thing. No matter what anybody writes.
But we all know, right? We all know it's the case. We're all okay with it. It's all out in the open. We don't have to hide it. We're all we've got a good excuse as well, right?
Laura said maybe a novella for a darker boundary pushing thriller to test the waters, and then she's written a cruise ? So possibly. A cruise is the second thing I'm going to come to.
Okay.
Because I don't know if we've ever discussed you doing this cruise that you did.
The one down the Nile.
Camera.
No,
yeah.
No, but I'm afraid it was global circumstances. Unfortunately, meant that that it had to be.
Oh God, of course.
Fairly last minute. It was meant to be in November last year. There's talk of it.
Yeah, I'm really sorry. I can't believe I forgot.
No, don't be silly. No,
I saw cruise and went, ooh.
Yeah, no, not at all. It was So
will you get to go again?
Possibly, we're looking at the possibility of maybe sometime next year to do it, which would be great. Would be great fun, and it was just really unfortunate that the circumstances just completely conspired against us for very good reasons or whatever. It never ever materialized, which was a great shame because I think I was incredibly excited. Being the selfish pig that I am, I was incredibly excited about it to get to go and see the pyramids and things like that. But watch this space, I think is the official term that people that don't really know what they're talking about like to say, right? And that's me. I should have just kicked off with that.
Would help if the person that you have discussed this with would remember things that happened.
Oh no, not at all. Not at all. It was very last minute. It was very last minute that we weren't able to do it, which is a great shame. But like I said, there's conversations being had about it perhaps happening in the future, which would be wonderful. I think it's a really great opportunity, and of course the Nile and Egypt in general have got it's inherently part of crime fiction. It's embedded in all of our imaginations, and the opportunity to do something like that in that stunning location was and remains terrific. So it's so watch this space. TG's just come in and said hi, Sam and Jonathan. Hello, T. Hello.
You've already missed the knees discussion, I'm afraid. Come back next time.
I'm incredibly terrified. I'll be honest with you, Sam. I cannot. Should I look at it? Should I go back and should I just leave it?
It was all very complimentary, but it's not the point.
That may
We're
be
here
worse.
about the books and not the looks. Thank you, ladies. There we go.
Thank God. Thank God. That's probably why I've been on so much. Thank God it's about the books and not the looks, right? That's where you step in, Sam. That's where you say, "Oh no, don't be ridiculous, Jonathan." But it's not coming. So anyway, never mind. Never mind.
I can't even have conversations. The things, oh my word, the things that we discuss. Okay, I've got a really, I knew I'd written something down somewhere that I really wanted to ask you. Right, very serious, very important question.
Okay.
Right. Serious head on.
Serious head. Yep.
Candlelit dinner or grabbing a burger?
Blimey. Am I on my own for both of them, or like have I had to make the food?
No, your lovely wife would be there with you.
All right, right, okay, of course, right, certainly. Well, that then, right? It's got to be. You kind of cornered me in a foxhole there. Of course, it's a candlelit dinner with my wife. That would be lovely. It feels like such a long time.
My husband would take one look at me and say, "Candlelit dinner or a burger?" She wants a pint and a burger. That is what my husband would
you didn't
say.
mention a pint, did
you?
So
let's be honest.
Right. Well, if we're being honest, then we'll go for a pint and a burger. Of course we will. That's what I'm saying. It's been such a long time since my wife and I have had the opportunity to do something like that. It's just become it's all sort of fish fingers and baked beans for dinner with us now because of our toddler.
Why the hell
not? Listen, it's been fantastic. What a 3 years it's been. I've never eaten so well or so regularly.
Yes, I once worked for somebody who told me that I eat like a student.
Well, listen, it is what it is, right? You are what you eat. It's one of these things. I don't know. It's a very private thing, isn't it? It's very private. What somebody goes about asking you what you eat and how you eat. Just tell them none of their business.
I think that the thing was I was trying to set something up, and my lunch ended up being me just grabbing. Are you ready?
I am.
Bag of ready salted crisps.
Okay.
Ready salted Walkers. A couple of slices of white buttered Warburton's bread, and probably like a can of pop of some description. Because I was just grabbing something to have, and it just became this running joke. Like, what's the student having today? Well, it could be something perfectly acceptable, but I'm an adult.
I've been there. I've been there. I remember being in the newsroom and being roundly grilled for having super noodles for like a year straight for all my. But I mean, the thing was, it was like I was just too busy. I just didn't. It was just fuel. I just needed fuel. If I didn't eat something, I would have collapsed. Right. So I am a terrible cook, though. I mean, that doesn't help. I'm a notoriously terrible cook, and there's a story that was told at our wedding by my best men about the time I mixed up. Good. Yeah, I mixed up. I can't even remember what it was I mixed up. But essentially, I'd put in I was having a pie. I'd cooked up. I was a student, obviously, at the time, and I'd went to cook this pie in the oven. And rather than it go in for like 15 minutes, I put it in for 45 minutes. So of course, I didn't think there was anything wrong with that, right? And then the alarm goes off at 45 minutes, and I go in, and the thing's charcoal. The smoke engulfs me like this, and my face was it was covered in soot. The alarm's going off and stuff like that, and the pie has gone from this Marks and Spencer's lovely, tasty steak and ale or whatever to this shrunken piece of charcoal. So of course that get mentioned in their wedding speech, and it's I can honestly say that my culinary skills has not improved or have not improved since then. So there you go. I won't be cooking anytime soon for anybody. Yeah, maybe just best to grab the burger. Actually, we'll stick with the burger.
I have to ask now: is that the worst cooking story you've got?
I think it is. Yeah, I mean, I've never made anybody sick or anything like that. There's never been any sort of sinister. It's always been me that's come off the worst with cooking. It's just I don't have the patience for it. That's the thing. Like I wish I did. It's like golf. Golf's a massive thing, obviously all over the world, but particularly here in Canada. And of course, I play football here with my knobbly knees, and everybody, all the other members of the team, they all play golf. We've got a dozen golf courses here in the city, but we don't have an Apple store, right? Go figure. So the joke, the long-standing joke has been that I'm Scottish and don't like golf. But it's just a mentality thing. I don't have the patience for it, and I know that if I was ever turned loose on a golf course, and you go to putt and it goes round the edge, that would just drive me nuts, unfortunately. So I don't do it for everybody's sake. I don't do it. And it's a bit like cooking. I don't have the patience. I wish I did because you see some of the things that get cooked. You see some of the things that get cooked these days, and it's incredible. And I wish I could do it, but I think it's knowing when to throw in the towel. I think is the key to that lesson. And the towel has well and truly been thrown in. Believe me.
I can make about 3 things, but somebody, my husband is the somebody, he reminded me recently that I once made potato ash, which for anyone who doesn't know has got like corned beef and potatoes and maybe carrots or various different things in it. And I served corned beef ash up to my family one weekend, and my dad's looking at me, and I'm like, why is everyone looking at me? I know it looks different. Why does it look different? There's no corned beef in it. So,
that's okay. That's all right. Who cares?
But they were all so polite.
Who cares?
They were brutal
Did they eat
afterwards.
it? That's the thing. Did they eat it? Did they eat the whole thing?
Yeah, I put it back in the pan and put the corned beef in and finished it off. It was fine. It was
Sam,
fine.
The proof is in the pudding.
I can make about 4 things well. And
that's all you need, right? That's all you need. That's it. Exactly. Just make enough to
We're
cover
all
2
alive.
days. There you go.
It's fine. I've not poisoned anyone, like you said. We're
exactly
good.
Right. Exactly. You just got to take the wins where you can with these sorts of things. That's know your limits and take the wins where you can. I think that's the best bit of advice.
Know your limits. Ask somebody else to cook.
Precisely that. Yeah, wonderful.
I'll be the person standing there topping up the drinks and
a very important role.
Absolutely,
a very important role, probably the most important role. Especially if you haven't eaten some of my culinary dishes, you'll need a good drink beforehand, or 7. There you go.
We've got about 5 minutes left, so I'm going to ask you if you can tell us anything about the 85 or so thousand words you've written for book 4.
Well, Jason and Amateur in it. I think that's maybe the limit of it. There's 85,000 words in Jason and Amateur, and most of those words. It's all a bit top secret at the moment because
fair enough.
I'm pretty pleased with it. I'm pleased with the progress that I've made for it, and I'm excited. I mean, look, it's one of those things. I've said this before about the series, said this about the characters tonight, even that every time that I get the opportunity to sit down and write for these characters, is a joy. It's a treat, and I have immense fun writing them and doing the humor and I think when you get to and other writers have said this before, I think when you get beyond the sort of first and even the second book in this series, and you get to 3, 4, and maybe beyond. It does feel like you're spending time with people that, and that's I think that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing for a writer to get to that stage where you do feel so comfortable with these characters that you're just getting back to basics, and you're getting to know them, and you're getting to re-know them and spend time with them and hang out with them. Particularly if they're nice characters, it can happen with villains as well. Obviously, it can happen with baddies and what have you. But it's maybe a little bit more pleasant when you actually enjoy the company of the characters that you're in, and I certainly do. And it's getting quite emotional. Actually, it gets quite emotional when you decide to put them through the ringer, because invariably they do get put through the ringer. And obviously, even in cozy crime, the ringers aren't maybe necessarily as red flagged as other forms of mystery fiction. But you get to that stage where you think, oh gosh, can I really do this to them? And then you invariably do it anyway. And I think that's what crime writers do. I think we ask the question out loud just to justify us doing it, right? We go, can or should we do this to these characters? We all know that the answer is yes, absolutely. We're going to do it anyway. So yeah, it's that little sort of morality, the little angel and the demon on your shoulder going, but you're going to do terrible things to them anyway. So what I found interesting with this 4th one, what I found interesting is that motivation and keeping that motivation, and it's really, really nice to see when you sit down and write these characters, that it's nice to see that they've grown or feel that they've grown. And I think I think they've grown. I think Jason and Amata have grown with every book. And their relationship with each other has grown, and that's always the tricky thing, because obviously at the very, very start of the series in the Big Hole Detectives, they don't get on, right? They don't get on at all. And having that sort of odd couple and having that tension and having that back and forth with them, that's kind of that was one of the things that inspired me to do the series in the first place, was having that dynamic relationship and making sure that relationship's still intact. But also, after everything that they've been through, they invariably will have grown closer. But still having that little bite, still having that sort of disagreement that doesn't seem out of place. That's one of the tricky things that the more the series goes on to do. But you find that tension, and you find these moments, because they're real people, right? We're all the same. We're all real. We're all real life, and you go through life with you spend your time with people that you've known all your life, and you don't I fight my best friends all the time. Everybody fights with them. Everybody has a disagreement. That's the great thing about it. So yeah, it's important to keep that going, and it's important to make sure that they do continue to grow, and there's a continuation there, and there's a development there of the characters. And of course, with every new book, you get a whole raft of new characters as well that come in, and new situations that come in. What I've really enjoyed about the fourth one is there's a couple of Easter eggs that I've kind of put in already that sort of hark back to the first one and the second one and the third one. And the tricky thing is, and again, these are conversations I tend to have with Jen, my editor, all the time, is that you don't, in a series like this, you don't want to make it that the reader's got to have read the 3 preceding books or the 2 preceding books. So I'm always at pains to try and make these books as standalone as possible. But if you have read the sort of the previous volumes in it, then there'll be little nods there that you can maybe pick up on. But they're very much Bruce D bonuses, as again to show my age. And one thing that I keep getting asked about is the chapter titles, and this has been something that just completely came out of nowhere for me. For all of us actually, at Harper North with it, because the first book obviously had the bingo calls, and then the second book had a link, had an Easter egg, and the third one's got an Easter egg as well. And I'm not allowed to say anything. I can't give anything away because we're going to be doing an official competition, and there's prizes to be had. There'll be more news on that soon, but so there's proper prizes for anybody that gets the link and everything else. So it's become this nice little thing that goes along with each new. And I've got to think up of a new one for the fourth one today.
No pressure.
It's no pressure at all. Yeah, but it's good. It's good pressure. Good pressure to have.
One of the things, I know we're coming up to time now, but one of the things that I really love in this one in particular is, they have got on each other's nerves, and they've rubbed up against each other the wrong way and all of that, and they do things that really infuriate each other. But actually, the relationship between Jason and Amata has become, it's quite tender in places. They're really understanding when they have done something that bothers each other, and how to kind of try and work through that, just to keep that relationship that they've got.
Yeah.
I think it's a really lovely, realistic aspect.
Yeah, it was important for me to do that. And it was important to, I think, with every new book in the series, is that evolves, right? Because they're very different people, and I remember being on here and talking about when the Bingo Hall Detectives first came out years ago now, that you think about that relationship between in-laws. They can be two very, very different people that, without that person in the middle, they might never ever spend time with each other, but suddenly they're thrown together through marriage and partnership and all the rest of it. So you can get very, very different people that are. It's not to say that that's always the case, far from it, but you certainly for Jason and Amata, they're very, very different people with different approaches, different outlooks in life, different backgrounds and stuff. So there is an affection there between the two characters, and sometimes that manifests itself in different manners and different ways, and I think inherently they care about each other, right? I mean, you can't catch killers and murderers without kind of developing some sort of healthy respect and adoration for the other one. But as is always the case, it can't always be lovey-dovey, unfortunately. There's always got to be some sort of conflict, some sort of...
Well, it wouldn't work in the book otherwise, would it?
Exactly that. And inherently, as any sort of crime writer will attest, you love to... I've said it already tonight, you love to put nice people through terrible things. So it just comes with the territory, unfortunately. Or fortunately, depending on how you look at it.
I think when you were discussing how it's nice for you as the author to come back to them, I equally think it's like a big hug of a book when, you know, you're the reader coming back to these characters that you just end up either liking or they irritate you or, you know, there's so many things going on. There's just so much to enjoy.
Good. I'm glad. That's very kind of you, Sam. Thank you very much for that.
I think I'd better let everybody go. We've gone past 8 o'clock.
We've gone over the time.
We did fear we would be sat here 3 weeks from now, sitting here discussing things still. So, would you like to give everyone a recap of the series so far?
Certainly, yep. So the Bingo Hall Detectives series, I suppose that's the overall arch of it. The first one's Bingo Hall Detectives, second one's Village Hall Vendetta, and the new one is the Concert Hall Killer. And it follows the misadventures of Jason, who's an out-of-work journalist, and his mother-in-law, Amita, as they catch murderers and criminals and crooks in and around Penrith and the Lake District in Cumbria. And I think that's it. I don't think I'm going to top that. I think anything else would be superfluous, as they say.
I think you've been practicing.
Yeah, can you tell? It's the nerves. If I wasn't able to do it, if I wasn't able to do the elevator pitch, I'd be a dribbling mess on the floor.
One of the things that it says, actually, I wrote it down somewhere. Where has it gone? No idea where. Oh no, here we go. Serial killers, TV dramas, bingo and biscuits. It's got the lot.
Yes, there you go. That's it.
I don't think we need to say any more. Let's leave the biscuits
absolutely
out of it.
Not. Absolutely not. There you go. It's got everything you could ever want.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who's watched, whether you're watching now or on catch up. Very much appreciated. And here is that beautiful cover again. It's so simple and so gorgeous.
I've been very lucky with this series. I've been very lucky with all my covers throughout my career, but this series in particular, it's the guys at Harper North, they know what they're doing. They're the experts, right?
They really do. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope we'll see you in book 4.
Thank you very much. See you later, everybody.